On January 25th, 2019, police received a phone call asking for a wellness check on 31-year-old Cody Amato after he hadn't shown up for work. It was extremely out of character for Cody, who lived with his 29-year-old brother, Grant, and his parents. Police arrived at the home but saw no signs of activity. They ventured inside, where they found the bloody bodies of Cody, Margaret, and Chad. The only family member missing was Grant. Over recent months, Grant had become infatuated with a cam model known as AdySweet, aka Sylvie. He had dug himself into a financial hole, spending his life savings on the model. He spent all of his time on his computer and isolated himself from his family, which was very unusual, as prior to this, Grant and his brother Cody had been inseparable. They did everything together, sharing the same hobbies, and even had the same career aspirations. Both the men were in nursing school, training to become nurse anesthetists, which was the most lucrative job they could get with their degree. Despite their age and success, they continued living with their parents, as their father wanted them to stay close, and the boys had no real reason to leave. They lived seemingly perfect lives, with very promising futures ahead of them. However, everything would change when Grant was kicked out of a nursing school over a disagreement with a coworker about the right way to treat a patient. Grant did manage to get a job as a nurse at another hospital, but he began to feel like Cody was progressing without him, leaving him behind. He believed Cody should have done more to stand up for him after the disagreement. Perhaps if Grant's downward momentum had stopped here, everything would have turned out fine. However, Grant made another mistake when he began administering propofol to patients without authorization. This would sedate the patients so that he didn't have to deal with them. When the hospital found out he was doing this, they initially believed he was stealing propofol and called the police. He was arrested for grand larceny and fired from his job. It was at this point that Grant's life really took a turn for the worst. Rather than pulling himself out of the slump he was in, he fell deeper into it. He would fill his time with watching anime, Twitch streaming, and playing video games. He isolated himself from his family, feeling ashamed of where he was at in life. Then one day, while searching for anime, he received an ad for a cam site called My Free Cams. In his self-pity, he didn't see a reason why he shouldn't click it, and went down a rabbit hole. He found the cam model, AdySweet, also known as Sylvie, and began interacting with her, sending her donations, and feeling a connection with Sylvie. Online, Grant would use the alias AdySweet. It was a persona he had created in his mind, separate from his real self. He lived vicariously through this alias, feigning success. He started donating hundreds of dollars to Sylvie to get private rooms and personal videos from her. Sylvie had a leaderboard showing the top donors, and Grant felt that he needed to be at the top of the list. Hundreds of dollars turned into thousands, which turned into tens of thousands, and soon he was spending between $12,000 to $15,000 per day on Sylvie, talking to her for 4 or more hours daily. After he depleted his own bank account, he turned to his family's. He would open accounts and loans in his brother and dad's names, or steal their credit cards in order to finance his addiction. Cody knew Grant was going through a rough time and planned a trip for the pair to go to Japan along with a friend. Cody paid for Grant entirely, just wanting him to get away from the stresses of life. As they entered the latter half of the trip, Grant dreaded the end, becoming depressed once again. The day before the trip ended, Grant ran off and isolated himself. Cody called and texted until he finally reached Grant. At this point, Grant told Cody about his secret relationship with Sylvie. Cody proved once again to be a supportive brother, showing sympathy towards Grant and even offering to assist him financially. The pair returned to their parents' Florida home the next day, at which point Cody told their father about Grant's secret. The family dynamic changed, and Grant felt more ashamed than ever. He ran off to his aunt's house to get away from the family, at which point he sent a video to Cody that shows how truly selfish and depraved he was.
What's up, Cody? My Nini? I really hope that you believe me when I say that you are my best friend. And I need $50,000 from you. Transferred to an account that I'm going to give you the numbers to. I hope I can see you again. Before I have to enact the plan. Cody, you have to do this. With every fiber of your being, you have to do this. And protect my things. Don't let them be infiltrated, please. There's not anything hidden, but that will only make things worse for me. And I'm already at the end.
The plan Grant referred to was to fly to Bulgaria to meet Sylvie. Soon after this, Cody and their parents showed up at the aunt's house. They forced him into rehab, with Cody threatening that he would kill himself if Grant ran away. He was admitted to a rehab facility and was meant to stay for 60 days. However, his mother would visit him, allowing him to use her phone to contact Sylvie. She then checked him out of the rehab only a couple weeks into the stay, against medical advice. While Grant was in rehab, his father, Chad, found Sylvie's email address and got in contact with her. He told Sylvie about Grant's true identity and the damage he was causing to himself and his family. After this, Sylvie stopped allowing Grant to book time with her, but the damage had already been done. Grant had spent approximately $200,000 in total on Sylvie, using his and his family's money. As a result of all the money Grant had stolen, Chad had to take out a second mortgage on the house and work extra hours. Grant's actions had also played a part in Chad and Margaret's marriage falling apart. They informed Grant that their marriage was over, but that they would be staying together legally for financial reasons. Chad also gave Grant an ultimatum and a long list of rules if he were to continue living with them. He was not allowed to contact Sylvie under any circumstance and had to adhere to restrictions Chad imposed on him regarding his electronic use. Grant's world had completely shattered at this point, with his only source of escapism taken away by his father. In his hopelessness, he managed to convince Margaret to let him use her phone again to contact Sylvie. Chad found out about this and told Grant he was being kicked out of the house. Grant truly had nothing left and reacted in the worst way imaginable. On January 24th, 2019, Grant walked into his mother's office, where she was playing Candy Crush. He stood behind her and shot her in the back of the head. He then waited for his father to come home from work, shooting him in the back as he entered the kitchen. Chad, now shot, crawled on the floor in his own blood, calling out for his wife. Grant shot him again in the back of the head. He then flipped over Chad's body and placed Chad's gun in his belt. This was a glaringly obvious attempt to make it appear as if Chad was armed. Grant then waited for his brother to come home and shot Cody, the only person in his life who had never done anything but help him. His entire family was now dead at his hands. He attempted to make the crime look like a murder-suicide by placing a gun near Cody's body. Grant stayed in his home with the bodies for a few hours, then drove to a Publix nearby to use the Wi-Fi to get onto Sylvie's website. He was still not free of the hold the obsession had on him. The next day, a welfare check was called on Cody when he didn't show up for work. Police arrived at the home, finding the crime scene Grant had left behind. They immediately began searching for him, believing he could be armed and dangerous. They found his car in a hotel parking lot on January 26th and found him inside a hotel room. He was very cooperative, feigning innocence, as police took him in for questioning. He was arrested on charges of first-degree murder, and although there was not much physical evidence indicating him, he was eventually sentenced to 3 life terms in prison without the possibility of parole on August 12, 2019. Once in prison, he gained infamy and had girls write to him that were interested in his psyche. One girl got close to Grant, and predictably, Grant became obsessed with her as well. He would send her money, and she would send him nudes and videos.
And everything about you just makes me so happy, and I just love you with all my heart, baby. And I'll protect you always, and I'll love you if I've ever. So just know that I'm always thinking of you, and that I always desire you with everything that I am. I love you. I can't wait to see you and talk to you tonight, because you're my precious little kitty, and I love you. Mwah.
Up to this point, Grant had still claimed he was innocent, but after his appeal request was denied, he decided to come clean. He confessed to the anonymous girl he was obsessed with, and to a documentarian named Colin Archdeacon. The fact that Grant waited so long to confess only strengthens the idea that he is nothing but a selfish attention seeker. He put surviving family members through the trial just so that he could become famous. The case of Grant Amato is one of the most bizarre and depraved crimes of the past few years.